I'm live. How's it going, everybody? Welcome. So, it's an exciting day for me. Today is the official release of my eighth book. My eighth book. This one is called The Practitioner's Toolkit: Psychology of Financial Planning. So, my last two books specifically for financial planners related to the psychology of financial planning. I've been doing work in training financial advisors around psychology and money for a very long time. So it's pretty exciting. I also have trade books out there. And my latest trade book is Money Mammoth. I'm writing a new one right now, which I'm pretty excited about. But I like to write books. What can I say? But it's always really exciting on that release day. So if you are a financial advisor, financial coach, financial therapist, I think you'll find those two books very, very useful. They are being used in dozens of universities, perhaps even hundreds by the time 2023 will be over. So it's a really exciting time for me and my co-authors. So special shout out to my father, Dr. Ted Klontz, who's a co-author of this book, as well as Dr. Charles Chafin. Brilliant, hardworking fellas, and it was my honor to be doing that work with them. But today, I'm going to be talking to you about a sensitive issue, because I'm going to be somewhat disparaging around something that I actually love. I actually love meditation. I love mindfulness meditation. It's something that I try to practice. I find great value in. And as a matter of fact, we have used it in our therapy approaches for people around money issues, et cetera, for many, many years. And so what I'm about to share with you, I take no joy in what I'm about to share with you, but it's some pretty robust research showing that mindfulness meditation has some negative impacts on our financial behaviors. So let's get into it. I already know that this is going to be very upsetting for a lot of people. And it was upsetting for me, but I think it's really important for us to have an open mind when it comes to research and in our attempts to understand how the universe works and our attempts to understand how psychology works. Now, there's going to be some compelling logic that is going to be really tough for you to challenge once I lay it out for you. But let's get into it. So the question I want to talk about today is meditation bad for your financial health? Okay, so as I said, meditation is actually a great thing for so many aspects of our functioning, our physical health, our relationships, our ability to handle stress, our ability to be present in the moment, to enjoy our lives, our ability to decrease anxiety about the future, our ability to let go of pain from the past. I am a huge fan of meditation. But who do you think are the world's worst investors? Who are the world's worst investors? Think of a category. Maybe I'll give you a moment. Throw it in the comments if you can think of anybody. I'm live streaming on TikTok here too. Who's the worst investors? Who are they? Now, you're probably going to be thinking immediately of younger individuals, and that's absolutely true when it comes to age. We struggle the most when it comes to investing when we're young, especially if we come from a lower socioeconomic background, which is where I came from. I didn't know how people invested. I didn't know what you're supposed to do. I made all sorts of mistakes. Ryan, what's up, my brother? Thanks for the comment. Looking crisp. I take it. Buddhist monks. Jamie, are you kidding me? Buddhist monks. That was my example. Now, first of all, let me just say that Ryan says he's the worst investor. You're probably not as bad as Buddhist monks. Now, I've not done a study on Buddhist monks. I appreciate what all the wisdom they're bringing to the world, the energy they bring, that healing perspective, that sense of calmness. But they're not really focused on the future, are they? I mean, are they fully funding their 401k? Quite often, what you find are people who have dedicated their entire lives to a religious, spiritual pursuit. They are not operating in the material world in the same way other people are. So they've sort of given up some of that focus on the material world in the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment and bringing that and passing that around to the benefit of all of us. They're not really focused on that. And as a matter of fact, many of these traditions require these spiritual, leaders to let go, to let go of material things. I'm always struck by, Buddha's path to enlightenment. Part of that was letting go of all of his money, leaving his wife, leaving his children, leaving his role in society for this spiritual pursuit. All right. So now, are you starting to see some of the connection that I'm trying to talk about? Awesome. Robert says that he's getting his book today. The Practitioner's Toolkit, everybody, out today. Super excited. It inspired me to go live. All right. So I agree. I think, Buddhist monks, we could at least argue they might not be the best investors. Okay. All right. So the benefits of mindfulness. And again, I'm a huge fan. It helps us cultivate a non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. The idea is letting go of the past, letting go of the future, being in the present so we can fully experience life. And one of the theories here is that much of our suffering comes from attachments and worry about the past and worry and concerns about the future, right? This is where a lot of our suffering happens in our lives. And so if we can, for example, the next time you're playing with your dog or in the presence of a child, if you can let go of the agenda, let go of the worries and be fully present, there's an unbelievable amount of joy you can unlock and have such pleasurable experiences by doing that. So a lot of that meditation practice is the practice of letting go of thoughts, observing them, letting them go, not attaching to them, letting go of the past, letting go of the future. So attention is a very, very important part of it. As a matter of fact, that's what we're trying to do, is cultivate that purposeful attention on the present moment. So based on that, here's the question, might individuals in a state of mindfulness, might they favor the near term versus trade-offs versus the trade-offs for the future? So would I rather have some benefit now and take that benefit now versus worrying about the future and delaying gratification? Can you start to see where this might make some sense in terms of how this may not be great for your 401k balance? Now, I want to say this, you might have a hard time seeing this slide, but I just want to sort of show evidence about how nerdy I am around this stuff. So this is a study that I conducted with some co-authors back in the early 2000s, looking to help people shift self-destructive financial behaviors. Some of these self-destructive financial behaviors include like compulsive overspending, compulsive buying. And one of our theories was that sometimes people engage in gambling addiction or overspending because they're trying to fill some sort of unmet internal need. And so they do that by spending. And so one of our theories was, hey, if we can get people to focus a little bit more on that present sense of wholeness, which meditation helps us do. And so we actually included daily meditation into this 7-day treatment program. So we taught it. We did a session of it every day. We had people like do walking meditations, eating meditations. The whole idea was enhancing that body awareness, give us a sense of wholeness, make us less likely to act out in self-destructive ways around money. So that was our theory. And by the way, there's a lot of evidence to show that this helps in many, many ways. So I also teach mindfulness meditation. It is medicine in a sense to people in my program at Creighton University and at Kansas State University. We actually have exercises related to it in this book with a sort of a warning label that this may not be good for your financial health. So I actually am a proponent, and I have a suggestion for you on integrating this in your life in a way that doesn't hurt your finances. And this is where it gets, we start to shift into how this might not be great for you. I wanted to give you another theory before I dive into these 3 studies I want to talk about. And this is based on the work of Philip Zimbardo, and he did some work on time perspective. And I'm just going to talk, briefly about these 3 different categories. So he talks about past positive, past negative. This is where you either have positive feelings about the past, or you're sort of consumed with thinking about all the negative things that happened in your life. So that is a perspective that people can be oriented towards. Many people who struggle with depression, struggle with trauma, post-traumatic stress, they're sort of locked into that past, right? And that past is interfering with their ability to enjoy their present and plan for the future. And so that's sort of the past perspective. Could be positive, could be negative. The present could be positive or negative also. If you're present fatalistic, this is where you might feel helpless, hopeless about life. You feel like luck is controlling your life. Present hedonistic is where you feel happy, you have a great attitude, you're a risk taker, you're a devil may care, you're just sort of immersed in the moment of pursuing pleasure and joy. And then we have a future orientation, which is where you're striving for future goals, where you're able to resist temptations of the present for a larger goal in the future. So these three different time perspectives. So I'd like you to even just, as I'm talking, think about your primary time perspective. Do you feel like you're focused more about your past? Do you feel like you're focused more about enjoying the present? Or do you feel like you're more future oriented, where you're thinking about goals, you're very conscious of working towards goals, you're planning for the future? So, where do you land on that scale? Just think about that. And these things have an impact on our approach to life. So, I now want to share with you some research that we've done on financial health. And so, these are a bunch of studies we've done over the years. I'd say that we have now tested over 100,000 people using the Klontz Money Script Inventory, which is a test that looks at beliefs around money. And we found several categories, three of which are really bad for your financial health. I won't get into those right now. The fourth category is actually really good for your financial health. We called it money vigilance. These are beliefs, specifically, money should be saved, not spent. It's important to save for a rainy day. I would be a nervous wreck if I did not have money saved for an emergency. Now, there's other items in that scale, but can you see? Let me just ask you this. Looking at those items on that scale, is that more of a past focus, more of a present focus, or more of a future focus? Money should be saved, not spent. It's important to save for a rainy day. I'd be a nervous wreck if I didn't have money saved for an emergency. These are all future-oriented beliefs. Now, our studies have been conducted on lower income, middle income, ultra high net worth individuals. And what we have found is that those ultra high net worth individuals score the highest in this money vigilance. The middle class score higher than lower income individuals. It turns out that to acquire money, to increase your net worth, to increase your income, you got to want it. And apparently there needs to be some future orientation, and some of it might be a little bit anxious too. And if you think about what would inspire you to avoid buying that shiny object today for some sort of future goal, sometimes it helps to be a little bit nervous about the future. I'm reminded of like squirrels who are collecting nuts and hiding them and saving them for the winter. They're doing that in anticipation of a future need. So there's some future orientation there. How conscious they are of it, I'm not sure. Probably not very conscious of it. It's just an adaptable behavior that they have found that have helped squirrels to survive. So the squirrels who weren't so interested in bearing nuts actually probably were more likely to die off. Now, what's so interesting too, not to get too far off on squirrels, but they, wildlife biologists have noticed that squirrels will pretend to hide nuts in certain areas if they think other squirrels are watching. I thought that was pretty interesting. All right, so a future orientation, all of our studies have found higher income, higher net worth, better financial health overall. So now we're going to get into these three experiments on money and meditation. And one of the problems with what I'm about to share with you is that these experiments were very well conducted. And anytime you look at research, you should have questions that pop up. It's like saying, yeah, but how was their sampling, and who were the people, and what measures did they use to look for these confounding variables, right? All research is flawed. All research has limitations. They conducted 3 studies that really sort of tackled some of these fundamental concerns we have in research on whether or not these results can be generalized outside of whatever, experiment they just did or laboratory they just conducted this in. So for the first experiment I'm going to talk about, they had 1,700 people, and they randomly assigned them to one of 2 conditions. So they controlled for a bunch of stuff, but just understand this. They just found these people, didn't really care whether they meditated or not, didn't do any of that, just randomly put them into 2 different categories. One of them was a 5-minute guided audio recording developed by the UCLA Mindfulness Awareness Research Center. This was a 5-minute mindfulness meditation exercise. The control group got a 5-minute exercise, but it wasn't mindfulness meditation. Okay. And so then they then wanted to figure out, how do these people behave differently, if at all, around financial tasks? And so one of the tasks that they looked at was time preference using standard lottery choice tasks. And so this is something that's been used in a lot of different studies. But basically, you have people make a choice between payouts today, smaller payouts today versus larger payouts in the future. Okay. And so what we found in this study, people in a state of mindfulness apply higher discount rates to future cash flows. So in other words, when they were meditators, were willing to accept, less money, but to get it today, then a lot more money 60 days from now. Whereas the control group, not as much. So what does this tell you? People just spending 5 minutes a day in mindfulness meditation, regardless of their history around meditation, are more likely to discount the future and take a benefit now, which is the opposite tendency of those money vigilant people who tend to have higher net worth and higher income. So they're sacrificing a higher benefit in the future for more pleasure and enjoyment today, just by doing that 5 minutes a day. So 5 minutes a day, you're less likely to be focused on the future. I mean, isn't that the whole point of meditation? The whole point of meditation is to immerse yourself in the present, let go of the future worries. Well, apparently it works. And the downside around this is that you got to have a future orientation. You got to be somewhat concerned about the future if you are going to save for the future. Do you understand how this makes logical sense? Now, you might not like this. And by the way, I did not really like this a whole lot because I like meditation, but it's fairly compelling and the logic is there. But I do have a solution on the other end of this. Like, I still think we can meditate. And so just, that controlled for all sorts of things. It controlled for all the things you might worry about. Yeah. But what about, these people, do they have more experience investing, et cetera? Are they more optimistic, more pessimistic, age, gender, race, the whole thing? So let me see here. Great comment. So Dr. Farrell, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. So a state of mindfulness shortcuts the delay of gratification mechanism. That's crazy. It is crazy. But, when I think about it logically, it's kind of the point too, right? I mean, the point is for us to try to enjoy the present. That's the whole point. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And meanwhile too, understand, I've been teaching people this for many, many years for the benefit of their finances. And I do think it can be beneficial, but you got to do some other things also. So this is going to be my ending around all this, because I'm not going to discourage people from meditating. It's so good for us in so many ways. All right, so let's look at the second experiment. Okay, so the hypothesis here and the finding too was that mindfulness attentional focus on the present influences people's time preference. Okay. And that state mindfulness has implications for how people are going to allocate their resources. So that state mindfulness, are you focused now? Are you focused on the future? It's going to impact how you allocate your resources. So what they did is they asked people to decide how much to use for consumption versus savings. So that was just a straight up question. And this is back to that treatment group. The people who were given the 5-minute meditation exercise versus the 5-minute mind wandering exercise, they allocated 20% more towards near-term consumption relative to that group that didn't get the 5-minute meditation. 20%, that is so much. That is so much. Financial experts will suggest that people save at least 10% for the future. There was a 20% increase in spending in the present term after that 5 minutes of meditation. So it gives us more erroneous assumptions about future value. It impacts our current present allocation of resources and spending. So people who are more focused and more tuned into the present moment are more likely to want to use money to enhance the present moment. Doesn't this make logical sense? I know there's some resistance in some of you who love meditation. I've actually gotten probably the most hate in any sort of discussion around research on this particular set of studies, because, and I get it. Meditation has been life-changing for many, many people. And it is really good for your health. You gotta sort of Have some future orientation involved along the way so that you don't hurt yourself when it comes to money because of the focus here. Okay, so the third experiment with that random assignment to those two conditions. So what they did is they simulated markets where participants make a series of stock trading decisions. Now, this type of laboratory experiment has been done in other areas to test for behavioral finance biases, that kind of thing. And before you start saying this is only laboratory and this doesn't count, unfortunately, I have another study related to this that alleviates all of your concerns in trying to find ways that this doesn't matter and it's not true. So, what they found is that state mindfulness impacts investor portfolio decisions. So, that group of individuals who were meditating for that 5 minutes versus the group who were doing the mind wandering thing, what they saw is that they were more likely to sell winning stocks, realizing that 10 to 15% gain right now. Okay, so as such, they generated 4% less wealth from trading. So this is, I don't know that the authors mention this, but it's the disposition effect, where basically people will have a tendency, they have a disposition to sell winning stocks so that they can enjoy the emotional pleasure of winning right now. And they're more likely to hold on to losing stocks because they don't want to feel the pain of selling those. And so basically, people who spent some time meditating, more likely to be focused on wanting that really good feeling right now. And that doesn't help you when it comes to investing. It doesn't help you when it comes to saving. It doesn't help you when it comes to your analysis of future value. Yes, thank you, doctor. As I mentioned, the people who have the most issue with these studies are the ones who've, dedicated their lives to meditation and teaching others to meditation. But Dr. Farrell says, agree with the idea of being in the moment. Yes, it makes sense that meditation leads us to favor the present. I think it makes sense too. It makes logical sense. And again, I am a proponent of yes and. So I do think there's value in meditation, but I think we need to go about it strategically. And I'll give you my best suggestion here towards the end. All right, so those were the laboratory experiments that were done related to this. The authors also looked at a representative sample, a database of about 20,000 people in the United States. And they found in those 20,000 people that about 2% said that they engaged in meditation at least once per day. Okay, so they looked at that group, they controlled for all the other variables, and they found a comparison group who didn't meditate. And what they found is that that group of individuals who say that they meditate every day report shorter financial planning horizons. So they're not thinking as far in the future. And they allocate 9 to 14% less of their liquid wealth to investment assets. So what these studies have found is that you can use experiments where you just randomly stick people in groups. Many of these people have never meditated before. As a matter of fact, probably most of them, since only 2% in this larger sample are meditating every day. You give them a 5-minute meditation task. You stick the other people in a 5-minute something else task. So they're getting something, which really helps in terms of the validity of a study. It helps with that placebo effect. And what you're finding is it's having a profound impact on how much money they're going to save, their investing decisions, and their time horizon. Now, when you take it out of the laboratory and you say, yeah, what about the real world? Well, when people report that they meditate once a day, they don't plan as much for the future, meaning that they're planning for more short term, and 9 to 14% less of their money are they investing for the future. So here is my takeaway as I wrap this up, as I land the plane, as I give you some hope, I hope. I love mindfulness meditation. I try to do it. As a matter of fact, I'll be playing tennis in the next hour or two, which is a mindfulness meditation exercise for me. I'm not worried about the future. I'm not worried about the past. I'm focused. I'm immersed in the moment. I try to take those opportunities doing, chores around the house, all sorts of things. Taking some deep breaths through the day. When I'm present with my family, the people I love most, I really like to center myself in and be present. Same thing when I'm working with clients. It really helps me hear them, be present. Meditation helps me decrease my anxiety. It helps me let go of the thoughts that get all sticky. But make sure you're taking care of business too. You need to do both. You need to worry about the future. Plain and simple. If you want to become wealthy or if you want to have good financial health, all the studies we found, you have to have a future orientation if you're going to do what it takes now to make those sacrifices, delay gratification to try to achieve those financial goals. You have to have a future orientation. So spend some time right now, write down what your goals are, and then automate. Automate. Make the decision now that you are going to make an automatic transfer, for example, from your paycheck to your 401k. That's easy. You do that with your employer. And then when that money hits your account, have automatic transfers to savings accounts that for those short-term goals you have, a vacation or a new car or a home, whatever it is. And then have accounts that money that automatically goes into college savings accounts for your kids. Take care of business. Okay. Think about what you want in the future. Think about what you need in the future. Set up a plan where that happens automatically. It doesn't require any of your effort to think about the future again to make that happen. So anyway, that's the little, I should probably trademark this phrase, automate before you meditate. Automate before you meditate. And I think that can help alleviate some of these concerns. So I want to thank you for joining me. Again, I'm here. I'm excited to talk about the release of my 8th book, Practitioner's Toolkit. Do not buy this unless you're a financial advisor, coach, that kind of thing. You work with people around money. That's what this is for. And it's the companion book to our Psychology of Financial Planning book, which is number 1 in new releases in retirement planning today on Amazon. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you next time.